This evening, we're going to be talking about whether or not there's a magic formula in terms of marriage. We have been focused on the many different thinking skills here at the Eve Speaks platform. As you know, our mantra, or the bedrock of the platform, is to heal, aspire, and grow. And within that framework, we believe that thinking well cannot be overstated. And you have to be intentional. We have to be intentional if we're going to reach our altitude, and also to correct our attitude about various areas of life. But certainly, marriage is one of those areas of life that requires and demands creative thinking. Creative thinking is the thinking skill that we're going to be focused on tonight. We've covered big picture thinking so far, focused thinking, and possibility thinking. Now, Marybeth, my esteemed guest here, please introduce yourself a little bit. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself, Marybeth.
Okay, I am college graduate. I majored in biology. I love science. And then I taught science in the intermediate school. Then I went on to become science coordinator for our district. And then I retired. That's my professional life. My personal life was that I didn't date much in high school or college. I went to an all-girls high school. I went to an all-girls college. So when I started to work, I was able to meet people, in the environment in which I worked.
But don't give them all the juice yet. Don't give them all the juice yet. We're gonna get to all the juice. But the reason why I decided to have Marybeth on tonight, guys. By the way, welcome Genevieve, Patricia, and Shanella. Please ask as many questions as you want. We are gonna get some clues from her success because she's been married for 55. Actually, it's gonna be 56 years on July 15th. Is it 15th or 14th?
15.
July 15th. 56 years. That's longer than I've been born. It's massive. And the idea that success leaves clues is why I thought, let me sit at her feet, because I've been married almost 19 years and I really don't know much. I don't know anything, is what I'm thinking. Because the statistics for today, I looked it up. For marriages, the average length of a first marriage that ends in divorce is roughly 8 years. 7.8 years for men and 7.9 years for women. And that's a big deal because according to Marybeth, we were chit-chatting a little bit before we started, she said that when she was growing up, she only knew 2 people that were divorced. And when she was in her generation, that is, and when she was growing up, only her mother, in her mother's generation, there was nobody divorced. I find that so remarkable. So the fact that she's been able to manifest a successful marriage for 56 years, she's married 7 times the number of the divorce rate today. I did my math. Yeah, 56. 7 times 8 is 56. So tell me that's not a reason to sit at her feet. She is a living legend. At least that's how I see it. So from that perspective, I thought it was beneficial for us to have her on to pick her brain. And because here in the Eve Speaks platform, we believe, again, in heal, aspiring, and growing. Some of the ways to grow is to really ask questions of people who have gone before us, to honor what they've accomplished. And by the way, Marybeth is my neighbor. I've only known of her maybe like a year, maybe 2. I don't even think it's 2 yet. Do you think it's 2 years? Probably 2 years.
Yeah.
And when I came to the neighborhood, she was very creative in the fact that she came and knocked on my door and introduced herself. She was the only neighbor that came to my door and introduced herself and welcomed me to the neighborhood. She's creative without even thinking about it. You didn't think that was creative, Marybeth? That was creative. So I just want to say thank you, by the way, again, for making me feel welcome in a neighborhood that, I'm very much the minority here. So from that perspective, the creativity is shining through right there. I'm going to just give you a couple of thoughts now about creative thinking. By the way, again, guys, if you have questions, if you don't have any questions, make some up, okay? Success leaves clues. Make some up. But we've been reading this book called Thinking for a Change. And Marybeth, she has read that chapter and she's going to be correlating, just to give you an idea of where this conversation is going to go. She's going to try to correlate some of the things that stood out to her in the book to her success in marriage. And it's not that she's been married a long time that's what's making a success, because longevity doesn't necessarily mean success. She's genuinely content. That's the word she used. So, Marybeth, I want you to tell me, what do you mean by being content? And how does creativity play into this idea of your contentment? I know it sounds kind of sophisticated question.
I think just the word contentment means you're satisfied. I'm satisfied with my life right now. I love my home. I love my husband. I love my children. There's nothing that I could say that I want. I don't want a new car. I don't want diamonds. I mean, I don't want anything but the peace and quiet that I have. This neighborhood is lovely. The people are nice. My friends are old friends, even new friends that are just, they fit my mold. Let's put it that way. And whether or not they attracted to me or I'm attracted to them, I can't tell you. But I'm fortunate in the fact that I have wonderful friends. I belong to 3 book clubs. Well, that's a lot of reading every month.
You belong to how many clubs?
3.
Oh my goodness.
But I do kind of guide people to books I've already read with another group, so that, I kind of don't have to read 3 every month. I can maybe read 1.5 kind of thing. But anyway, the 3 groups are very old friends, new friends, and my church. And they're people I'm not close with as far as personally, but they're just people in the church that come together once a month and discuss a book. So that's my life. I'm content. I'm satisfied. I'm not saying I have to do blah, 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 because basically Jim and I have done it. We've traveled. We have our 3 children. They are not close physically because 2 live in California, but we enjoy going there to be with them. They come to us. And so contentment is, I thought, a good word to describe what I'm at right now.
That's beautiful. Creativity, I would never think of how creativity plays into contentment, but I think if you can look at the good side of life and be grateful for where you are, it's a form of creativity, because gratitude requires you to look at what you have through the lens of, man, there's nothing to complain about. Somebody has a question, it seems. There's nothing to complain about. And, I don't want people to get the impression that you're problem free, but you're saying at this juncture in your life, you are just at peace, and you and your gym have done it all. Now, if I could get to this stage, I would be ecstatic, but I've only put in almost 19 years. And so that's why I'm sitting at your feet. If you have a question, go ahead and type it. She's allowed to talk. You're allowed to talk, Judy. If you have a question, go ahead.
All right. I wanted to say that when I hear Marybeth, it's like contentment has allowed her to turn lemons in lemonade, actually. This is how I can call this creativity, because as she is a simple person. So that's mean that she takes the life how it comes, and it is said, does her contentment enable her to turn lemon in lemonade. So this is this is the creative part of the thing that I can see.
So you're drinking a lot of lemonade then, Marybeth.
A lot of sugar in it.
A lot of sugar.
Well,
Wow, that's such a
I
great
think sometimes
outlook.
that's exactly what you have to do. You have to look at the situation, and it might be not a good one, but you have to try to turn it around to be a manageable one. Let's put it that way. Okay, maybe you can't change it completely, but you can manage it. Now, I'll give you a little story that happened right today. My husband wanted to go for his test drive of a Tesla. Now, to do that, you don't have a showroom, no one takes you out. You get something on as an app, and they tell you where to go to pick up the car, how to get it open, what to do. Well, the thing wasn't working right on the cell phone. So we got to the car, we found it, but we couldn't open it. And Jim's phone it looked like dead, but it wasn't. It was confusing. So, okay, we had to solve this problem. I said to him, let's go to the Apple store. We were right at the mall. We did that. The man fixed it. We came back. We found the car. We got in the car. We went. Well, the funny thing is, at first we couldn't get into the car. When we
Because
had gone for the test drive by ourselves and came back, guess what? We couldn't get out of the car. Because we were trying to turn it off. We didn't know you don't turn these calls off. They just power down. Well,
wow.
what happened? We started to laugh and giggle, and we talked about the fact that this was a Seinfeld episode. If Seinfeld could write it, it would be just hysterical, because here we are, two old fogies, I call myself and him, who are using technology that we never used before. And, we're learning, and we made it into a funny thing.
That's
And
awesome. And the fact that you're still giggling together
I,
after 56 years.
and so when I told my daughter about this on the phone, she was laughing too, because I just wish I had a movie of us doing this. But that's what happens in life. You have to kind of look to see, first of all, how can you solve the problem?
Uh-huh.
And if it doesn't get solved, well, it's okay.
Laugh.
Of course, if it, that was just a nothing thing. But that's one of the things that I think I used to tell the kids in school, because I taught science, and you always started out with a problem. And then you went through, kind of a learning curve and blah, blah, blah. And then at the end, you had a conclusion, you had a problem solved. And I always said tell them, there's no problems in life. There's only solutions, but you've got to find it. So
did you just say there are no problems in life? There's always is that a science teacher mentality there?
well, I don't know. I used it, but the thing is that, and that's true, really. There was no problems, but the problem may be that you've given the ability to solve it. And so you have to look for those ways in which you can get the solution. And
you have to get creative, is what you're saying.
Right. And here we have creativity, and that might be that. So
wow. So Marybeth has been married for 56 years. She has 3 children. And she's been a science teacher for 27 or 28 years. She has, what else can I tell them about you? Your story is so rich. She's lived in the same neighborhood for like 52 years.
Right.
She's a stable woman. That's all I can say about that. Very stable. She did quite a bit of writing for articles because as a science teacher, to influence the curriculum. So I'm just kind of listing the highlights, because she's here at this stage, but I'm sure it was a journey to get here. And Shanella has a question. Shanella says, Marybeth, what's the difference between being content and genuinely content? Is there a difference?
Well, for instance, you can be content with what you have, but you don't want the status quo. You want to maybe get more, a bigger house, let's say, a better car, better clothes, go to a better store, something like that. That maybe you might be content with what you have, but you still don't want, you want more. Now, is it more material things or more social things? So what is it that you want more of? And I think that's something everybody would have to think about on their own. But right
Mhm.
now, at this point in my life, I don't need any more material things. I have them. Or if something breaks, let's say, I don't have to get the best of everything. But that may come with age, because maybe when I was younger, I wanted to shop at a better store, or I wanted to get a better type of television or whatever it is. But right now, I'm at a point where that doesn't mean anything to me. Designer clothes don't mean anything, designer pocketbooks and that kind of stuff. But a lot of people just are not content with what they can have. They want something what they can't have.
Mm.
Is that the difference, Chanela? I don't know if I'm making myself clear.
You can speak if you want to speak, you can. You're being allowed to talk. You can speak. We can hear you if you say something. Hi, Miata. Welcome. We're sitting at the feet of Marybeth. Chanela, you're on mute. I get. No, that answered your question. Oh, go ahead, Chanela. Did she answer your question? Do you have any other questions about that? About being content?
She answered the question very well.
Okay. I see you have a number of questions here, Chanela. She has another question, Marybeth. She says, have you or your husband at any point felt like calling it quits in regards to being married?
No, I mean, I wouldn't say that at all. However, we did argue about things and we still do. I mean, we're human, and everybody does. I think now at this point in our lives, if we might argue, then we wind up laughing about it. Maybe about 40 years ago, we didn't laugh anymore. But my mother always told me one thing. She only gave me one piece of advice when I got married, and that was, don't go to bed mad.
That sounds so good, Marybeth. But in reality, when I find out when I'm having a real conflict with my husband, that don't work. I won't even tell myself I'm resolved, and I'll get up the next morning and I'll still feel like war is in my soul.
Well, you know what? Another thing that I find to be wonderful in getting past something that might have been going on is giving a hug or a tickle.
That touch, huh?
Touch. Not a kiss, but a hug. It's a warm type of feeling. A tickle kind of gives you a little thing to laugh about. And that works maybe more than an argument. And
that's a creative tip right there. Because when you're in the middle of a heated moment, the last thing you want is somebody to touch you.
Right. But
sometimes the reason for that is because we don't want to be vulnerable, or you may feel like you may get rejected.
Right.
So to touch, it's a deliberate thought that you have to engage to diffuse things. Would you say?
Yes, and diffusing is a good word. Yeah.
Thank you for that tip. Thank you for that tip.
Here, where they talked in the chapter of having ideas waiting in the wings.
Say that one more time.
Have ideas waiting in the wings. In other words, in the back of your mind, you have certain things that you're thinking about, and they'll be ready when the moment arrives to use them. Like the hug, or the tickle, or the smile, or sometimes just leaving the room, getting away from the situation. So
it sounds like what you're saying is that there's some discernment that's needed to know when to use what tool.
Exactly.
Oh, sounds like you need prayer too.
Right. And also praying, and asking God, help me. I can't do it all. I say that lots of times, and it isn't because of our marriage. Many times it's about something else, perhaps. And I'll say, dear Lord, I can't do it all. You got to help me. And isn't there something in the Bible that says, bring your problems and bring them to the foot of the Lord, because you have to sometimes give up and say, and admit the fact that you're vulnerable and you can't do it. You need help.
Wow. You know, a lot of times we don't think, I think somebody has a question. We don't think that the thinking skills, which is what we are espousing here on the platform, goes with scripture. But if we're deliberate, we would apply the thinking skills, creative thinking, along with scripture, because the idea to think, you know what, I need to pray and apply my prayer and use a thinking skill with my prayer is a form of creative thinking,
right?
As opposed to just kind of winging it and seeing what happens. And I think that's what happens with a lot of endeavors, whether it's marriage, parenting, business, and career. We just kind of wing it with our thinking. And when we end up on the other side of the rail, we wonder how we got here. But what we are trying to do here deliberately is to encourage people to engage thinking, praying together, and to get results that we desire. Now, somebody, Miata has a question. What is your secret to for staying in a marriage that long? I don't know if there's one secret, but tell us, the one that comes top of the mind. What is the secret? Because that is a very long time, Marybeth. I mean, really?
It goes very fast. It seems like
really?
yesterday we were getting married, Yeah, I mean, really and truly. Well, you can look at your own children, where did the time go to that they're now 15 or however old they are. But wait a minute, I have to. Oh, just telling me that the battery saver is on. I had forgotten I had unplugged this computer about a day ago. I should have plugged it back in, but I think it's okay. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. The thing is that 55 years doesn't seem like 55 years. It seems like I should only be 55, and I'm not. But I guess first of all, I'm lucky to have Jim. That maybe whatever we argued about or whatever, he didn't hold a grudge, and I was lucky that it was him. Perhaps it's not a two-way street. It's not a one-way street in this marriage. It's two ways. So the two people have to be on the same boat and the same page, and be willing to compromise and talk about it, or leave the room and cool down.
Oh, what happened? We lost her. Uh-oh. Well, we lost Marybeth for now, so let's just continue to talk until she gets back on. I'm sure she will. Oh, but I can see her down here. Hold on.
Talk about it, or leave the room and cool down.
Oh, what happened? We lost her. I can see her on my phone, but I don't see her on the screen, on the computer. Marybeth? Well, we lost Marybeth for now, so let's just continue to talk until she gets back on. I'm sure she will. Oh, but I can't see. Oh, that was just delayed. She I think her thing died. But guys, in terms of being married for 56 years rather, we're just going to continue to just pick Marybeth's brain. Think of all the possible questions you can come up with while we wait for her to rejoin. I'm not surprised that technology is doing what it does. It does it all the time. And I think even right now is an opportunity to exercise creative thinking in this situation right now, because here are some thoughts about creative thinking. Our thoughts determine our destiny, and our destiny determines our legacy. You are today where your thoughts have brought you, and you will be tomorrow where your thoughts take you. When I think of this, I think of the fact that whatever we're doing in our marriages now, those of us who are married. Marybeth, she's trying to, I can see her again. She's trying to rejoin. Those of us who are married, whatever we're doing right now, if we're in a deliberate in how we approach arguments, disagreements, parenting, whatever it may be, the trip that we're going to take, the vacation, then this is going to come to life for us. Whoever we are today, whatever our thoughts are today will take us where we get to tomorrow. Hi, Marybeth. We
I'm
lost
on
you.
my phone now. I don't know, the phone, the computer just went off.
Yeah.
I had unplugged it yesterday. I forgot about that. So I plugged it back in, but it didn't go back on.
It's okay. We expect these things when we're doing these things. It happens every time. Last week was a disaster.
Oh.
We just have to apply creative thinking. You got on your phone and you're still talking. Hallelujah.
Well, you see, wow. I guess I'm not as old as I think.
You're doing it. You're doing it. So I was just sharing this quote that is a part of the book, that it says our thoughts determine our destiny and our destiny determines our legacy. So it seems to me, Marybeth, that the way you think about marriage or have thought about marriage over the years brought you to this place, which is your destiny. You're destined to finish out as a winner because of the way you were thinking. You said that you were just content. You looked at things and the way you calculated or deciphered or translated them to yourself is that I am content. I am grateful for what I have.
Now, that brings me to something else that I had written down here. You know, growing up, I become a teenager, and especially when I became an adult, I really knew I wanted to be married. I did not want to be single. I didn't want to become a nun. And remember, I always went to Catholic school, so I was around nuns, and that was something you would think about. And so anyway, I knew that marriage was going to be in my future because my mom and dad had a wonderful marriage. I remember my mom and dad hugging each other and just enjoying each other's company. And that's what I thought about. So anyway, of course, now I'm out in the worker world and I meet people of different aspects, different backgrounds, different whatever. And I started to date more than I had in college, let's say. And you meet different people. And I kind of got the idea of what kind of person I would want to marry, not only physically, what he looks like, but how he reacted with people. And I was fortunate enough, being in the school system, to actually meet Jim where I worked. So I saw him in a professional way.
You saw him across the room and the chandelier started to shake. Is that what happened? Tell us the juice. Tell us the real juice. What happened? You saw him across the way and what happened? Look at her smile. Oh, she's lighting up. Oh, wow.
The funny thing is, I had been teaching at this school for 2 years. And, the first day of school when the teachers are in and the parent and the children aren't, there was always a meeting, the faculty meeting, where all the faculty get together. And basically any of the new faculty would be introduced as to who they were, what they were going to teach, and they would stand up. So I can remember we were in the cafeteria. I guess there was coffee out and whatever. And the principal was talking and he was introducing the new faculty members that were coming on, on that year. And I remember Jim standing up. And I looked at him and I can remember thinking to myself, well, he's not bad looking. So all right, the school starts. He taught on the first floor. I taught on the third floor. And basically, we probably would never have crossed paths, really, unless you had lunch at the same time and you were in the teacher's cafeteria at the same time. But there was a person in the music department, Mrs. Lyles. Mrs. Lyles was the choral teacher, and Jim was the band teacher. And a couple of times I'd meet Mrs. Lyles in the hallway, and she'd say to me, "You know, that Jim McCarthy is kind of nice." Well, I really give it to Mrs. Lyles. I think she put the little buzz not only in my ear, but in his ear. And well, all of a sudden,
she spoke it into reality.
I think I really, I owe her for this. But anyway.
But words do have a lot of power. They do. Didn't God say, "Let there be," and he created the universe? I mean, didn't he do that?
Well, that's Mrs. Lyles.
We're endowed with creativity. Mrs. Lyles, she spoke it into reality.
Right. So anyway.
Somebody else has a question. As you get older, Chanela wants to know, do you worry about mostly or not worry about? What do you worry mostly about or not worry about as you get older?
Well, you know what I worry about? And I pray for? That if that I will have the ability to take care of Jim if he gets sick.
Wow.
That I really do. And I know, you know what? Some of my other friends say the same thing. They just hope that they will be able to be there.
Give their spouse.
Yeah.
Isn't that so touching?
Oh. I do about that. You
know, that's so touching and so
don't tell Jim I said that.
No, I won't tell him.
But you know, really and truly, you say to yourself, what do you get married for? You get married to help each other. And you know, if you're not there, well, you just hope you can. You know, I don't cry. But yeah, that has crossed my mind. And you know, now Jim is 4 years older than me. So
he's 5 years older than you?
4.
4 years older than you.
Yeah.
That was a good question, Shirley. But to hear her, the fact that she's put thought into the fact that what if, you know, he gets sick? You hear the love that's been nurtured over the years. And she said, have you and your husband given or is living for God? Have you and your husband been living for God? Like spiritually, how has spirituality played into your marriage?
Well, you know, I know when first Jim asked me to marry him, I didn't tell him yes right away. I said to him, it just so happened the next day we were going out to Long Island we were going out to the Brookhaven National Laboratories out there. They had an open house and I wanted to go to that. So I said, you know, we can go. But I said to him, you know what, let's go to church the next morning and think about it. Do we want to get married to each other? I was praying that this would be the right thing to do because, you know, it's a big decision in life to share your life with somebody else. And I wanted to make sure too that Jim and I were on the same, that he was a religious person. He went to church and that he had a relationship with God, and he did. And that's another thing. I wouldn't have married somebody who was not like me, you know, that went to church. Today, nobody goes to church, or lots of people don't go to church. But the thing is that I felt that was important to have a basis of
spiritual foundation.
Spiritual. Yeah.
Yeah. The scripture says, unless the Lord builds the house, the laborers labor in vain.
Yeah. So anyway, that was something that was important in my life. Right. And that was that. Yeah.
So in terms of creativity and communication, Patricia wants to know, are you always like really honest in your marriage? She says, how important is honest communication in your marriage? Like, are you always like, because don't you feel like sometimes there's some things that's just better left unsaid, just not.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, that's funny that you make this up because, you know, Jim is very honest. Me, I can do a little white lie, you know. So when I say to him something like, how do you like this stew, or something like that. And Jim will say, well, I don't know, maybe it has too much whatever. And then I get mad. Can't you say anything nice? Why do you have to complain about this? Isn't it wonderful that I made it? Whatever, it's just a stupid thing, right? But anyway, he's very honest. If he doesn't like something, you'll know it. Me, I'll kind of fluff it over a little bit, so that I'm not so critical.
So you don't come across critical. So you're trying to avoid being critical. So you try to fluff
Right.
it up.
Right.
But he's
right.
like, well, okay, I get that. But in more serious things, though, do you think that honest communication is like critical?
Yeah. And the thing is that on very serious matters, I can't think of anything that we've had that is so serious that.
Peony.
Oh, what happened now? I lost you.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. We haven't had really a very horrible things happen in our life. One was where my son James was in an accident and he broke the ligaments in his neck and he had to have neck surgery, fusion. So that was a traumatic thing for both of us. But we just researched doctors and everything turned out fine. But the thing is that we were together in solving that problem, in finding the right place for him to go and that kind of thing. So I really can't think of anything that in our life that was so horrible that we didn't work it out together.
Well, I tell you, you have a smoother story than most of us who are married.
Well, to say the truth, I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, that's definitely something to be grateful for. But can you tell me, Genevieve wants to know if you've ever been, were you always like this, or did it take time to get to this point along the years?
Oh yeah, I think when we were younger, we were more reactive emotionally. Like maybe I would yell at him more, or actually, I think I was the more of the yeller than him. Jim is very quiet. He doesn't ever get annoyed as much as me.
Really?
Maybe that's good. I can remember yelling and storming out of the room and something like that. That doesn't happen anymore. You calm down.
You calm down. The hormones settle down.
That's right, exactly.
Another quote that I see here, it says, people from reading the book, people who go to the top, creative thinkers, people who go to the top think differently than others. Nothing limits achievement like small thinking, and nothing expands possibilities like unleashed thinking. And when I think about this, I wonder, how did creativity or creative thinking play into this quote for you? How did creativity expand you or expand your experience with being married for 56 years? Trick question. Huh?
Yeah, I know. I'm just looking at some of my notes here to think what I said. Wait, first of all, I think that you can't be narrow-minded. You have to look for bigger solutions sometimes, either by reading something that you might need to, or looking at other people, or looking something up, or, you just can't sometimes solve your problems on your own. Now, that you have to maybe have help. Some people do have to go to counseling or something like that. We never had to do that. Or talk to one of your religious leaders for help, or read some kind of whatever. So by expanding your horizons and looking at different solutions or finding different ways of doing something, I think will help.
Right, for sure.
So people do have to go for counseling or help at times in their life. Thank God we never had to do that, but you know,
You guys were your own therapist, huh?
I guess so. I don't know.
You certainly are blessed, Marybeth. Certainly.
Oh God.
Mary Angelou says you can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have. It sounds like you had a lot.
Well, I don't know. I guess I
You
didn't
to go
realize it.
56 years with no counseling and no outside input. Really?
No, not that I can think of.
That's
No.
pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any more questions? Let's see if we have any more questions here. Do you and your husband still date each other? Chanela wants to know.
But you know, the funny thing is, every once in a while, I say to Jim, "Let's go on a date. We'll go down to Home Goods and look around." Or no, you know what? Basically, we really don't go out on a date. We'll go out with friends. Well, you know, or I'll laugh and I'll say to him, well, when he says to me, "You want to go to Home Goods or Home Depot?" Okay, we'll make it a date. But you know, we don't really go out on dates. I mean, we'll go out to a play and things like that by ourselves. I guess we never call it a date, but
Okay.
we do things together. We've gone to a few plays this winter together, you know, by ourselves, not with other couples. And but basically, we go out with other couples to their houses or to dinner, or you know, that's I do know.
Marybeth,
Yeah.
does that play a vital role in your marriage? Do you think that's the bond that keeps you guys together?
Keeps me what?
Ask the question again, Chanela.
I'm saying, is that the vital part that keeps the bond between both of you being together for that long?
The fact that they go out,
Yes, that they still date.
the fact that you still date, is that the vital thing that keeps you guys together? That's the question.
Well, we really don't date. When I think of a date, I think of it as being, you know, like someone picks you up, you haven't seen them in a while, and that's a date. Once you're married, I think every day is a date. Your life is a date. So
Every day is a date?
I can't separate it.
Well,
You know,
I
actually,
guess in a way you're right, but I don't know. It feels good to me when like on Saturdays, I get dressed up or
right,
somewhat, and we go to a restaurant and
right. Well, you know, we never did that much. No, my parents never
no,
went to restaurants. No, I know I wasn't in the thing that we would go out. I do know that there are couples who say, okay, every Tuesday night or every other Tuesday night is our night and we'll go out on a date. But we never did that. My parents never did. It was not something familiar to me. And yes, to go out together to restaurant or to visit someone else's house or go to a play, yeah, you get all dressed up and you go out. And the fun thing is when, for instance, let's say we go out to a play and we park the car in a parking garage, okay? And Jim will open the door for me and I get in, and I consider that a date.
oh,
And now that's one of our little fun things that we do.
uh-huh.
So when, for instance, on Sunday, when we come out of church, I'll go to and Jim will go to the door first and open the door for me, see? And that's something
After
that you
56 years. Oh my goodness.
That's like a big deal. So then we laugh at each other. We look at each other and laugh like, oh, this is nice. You're opening the door for me. I'm on a date. And I'll say that I'm on a date. But we're not on a date. We're just going home. But it was special.
But that's creative thinking too. He's still thinking after 56 years that he needs to go to the corridor first and open the door. Those are the things that we don't take for granted or we don't think about, but they matter because see, you're telling it to us on this platform.
That's right.
So apparently it does matter. Yes?
It does. And you know what? Not another thing. Women have become self-sufficient. They don't demand, not that you don't want to demand it, but doesn't it feel good when the person opens the door for you going into a store or something, or even a stranger? when they're coming out and they hold the door for you at the post office, and it looks like, wow, this person knows, is a gentleman. He opened the door for me. Total stranger, but it makes a big difference in your life.
It sure does. It
Yeah.
definitely does. Genevieve has her hands raised. Genevieve, you have a question?
Yes, yeah. It's so lovely to listen to Marybeth because what she's sharing is so nice. So I have so many questions actually, but well, I will just try to ask one. Marybeth, do you think that your personality has helped you reach this point? This is my first question. My second question is, Angela, present your if I can say your life at the beginning, like you were living in an environment and a community or family, or maybe I can say the time where marriage was not something people had in their program, actually. Do you think that there is some or there are things in our time that's for push people to the divorce that are increasing actually? Is there things that you think that we live in this time that doesn't help people to stay in the marriage?
Yeah, well, I think at one time you had to have certain reasons for divorce. Divorce wasn't so easy. And I mean, legally, to go through a legal divorce, I think you actually, there were certain things you had to show. I don't really know them because I'm not a lawyer, but now I think it's very easy to get a divorce. And at one time, I think when a person got divorced, the man had to make sure that the woman was taken care of, that he owed alimony and all that kind of thing. And then now I don't think that that's necessary. I necessarily have to have it. I think that women can get a divorce and not demand certain things from their husband. I'm not sure because I don't know the law, but I think it's easier to get to. And of course, socially, it's not looked down on anymore. People 50, 60 years ago would, oh my God, they're getting a divorce. Oh, no. Today, it's like, oh, they're getting a divorce. So it's not social. It's much more socially acceptable right now than it was a long time ago.
Wow.
And,
yeah, it is. I do know. I do think it's a lot easier to get a divorce, and
yeah,
it doesn't take much creativity. You just go down and sign some papers, and you're out.
yeah.
The
other question is that, do you think that your personality has helped you reach this point? Do you think that we have to be, we need to have a certain personality trait to be able to stay longer in a marriage, for example?
I think you have to accept people too for what they are. As some people might get married and say, well, he'll change. They think, oh, I can change him or he'll change. That doesn't happen. You have to know the person that you're going to be with and try to figure it out before you get married. Now, for instance, I know for us, when Jim and I were dating, I brought up, and he never brought up these, but I brought them up because I thought they were important. Money, would we have a joint account? Would we have separate accounts? How much money do you have in the bank? How much money I have in the bank?
How much money you got? That was not like the question to ask, huh? Wasn't a question to stay away from.
Well, the thing is that you want to know whether or not a man can support you. Today, women immediately go back to work after they have children, but at that time, that wasn't true. In fact, myself and all of my friends who I worked with as teachers, when we had children, we stayed home. I stayed home for 10 years. We mostly all stayed home until their children were in school. Today, I don't think you're going to find many people, and I'm just talking about teachers because that's who I know, who after they have children, they go right back. Mom or mother-in-law or sister or whatever, they retire and they take care of the children while the daughters or daughter-in-laws go back to work.
I think that this adds to stress of marriage, I think
Yeah.
ideally the woman is, I'm going to sound very old-fashioned here, like the traditional wife, but I do think it's beneficial for the family for the mother to stay home and not to forfeit her own dreams and aspirations. But I think the ideal situation, it's kind of like my own, to be honest. I work from home.
Right.
My kids come home, I'm there for them. I can listen to whatever happened during their day. I pick them up, I drop them off. I have my own career, but I work from home.
Right.
And I think it takes away a lot of the stress. I can't imagine having to get up every morning and go to Manhattan. I
know.
Well, I just can't.
And also I see children, I see people who are packing the child in the car at 6:30 in the morning to take them to daycare or to their parents' home, and they're then running off to get the train. The thing is, the child. How about the kid who wants to sleep late in the morning? They can't do it, and they're 3.5 years old. So it's boom, 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 boom. Get up, get out. I think
no creativity going on. Just go, 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 like a machine.
See, the thing is I wanted to make sure that I could stay home. That first of all, when we decided to buy a house, we could have gone to a bigger house, a better neighborhood up on the hills. But that would have meant that I couldn't stay home. So we knew what our level of what we could afford, and that's what we stayed within our limits.
So society is such now that, Marybeth, that sounds like pie in the sky. Most people have to work. They need two incomes. It's very stressful. Yes. So while that's the ideal, I know that it's easier said than done. Right. But I guess that's why we need creative thinking.
Look at the houses in this neighborhood that we bought 50 some odd years ago. We could afford on one salary. But then another thing is, Jim and I never spent my salary.
Really?
We said, yeah. So that when I did retire, we weren't used to having two salaries. We were used to having one salary. And of course, we didn't go on big trips. We didn't buy new cars. We stayed home. In fact, one of the first things, because first of all, I was going for my master's in the summertime, so we couldn't go away. I think the first time we went away on a trip was maybe 2.5 years after we were married, because we just didn't spend the money on that. So these are things that kids don't do today. And I guess my own children don't do that because of the fact that we got them used to traveling, because when they were little, we traveled. But when I was little, we went nowhere. But nobody went anywhere. None of my friends went anywhere.
Right.
Nobody took a plane, because there were no planes in the 50s to go anywhere for families. So these are things that changed. Society changed. Everybody changed. And that's what happened,
Yeah.
So they got, yeah. So
one of the points of creativity is that creativity is the joy of not knowing it all. The joy of not knowing it all refers to the realization that we seldom, if ever, have all the answers. We always have the ability to generate more solutions to just about any problem. Being creative is being able to see or imagine a great deal of opportunity to life's problems. Creativity is having options. So whether it's your generation or this generation, the point is we are endowed with the ability to become creative or to be creative in whatever situation or dispensation of our lives that we're in, so that we can get the outcomes that we desire. So even though society has changed, we can, if we're thinking correctly, design the life that we want. The question is, are we engaging in creative thinking deliberately, intentionally? And it will, I think it's the game, that's what will make the difference. It's the game changer, how we think. Does anybody have any other question?
Not only how we think, but are you thinking?
Are you thinking? That's a good one, because we all think we're thinking, but are we really?
Yeah.
We're thinking, but we're thinking haphazardly. No framework, no discipline, no method.
Right. And having, and it said in one of the chapters, having a plan, not just, as you say, willy-nilly thinking, but have a plan of your life. Think about it,
Exactly. Having a plan and work the plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what am I going to put into practice based on my conversation with you? It sounds to me like you are very big on community. So you and your husband, you go out with friends, you have your church, you even have a Zoom call that you do weekly with your friends from back in the days of COVID. You still maintain it. Seems like community has played a big role in your life as a married couple, so that you have your own identity as well, apart from your marriage.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Something else. You see, Jim and I maintained our own identity too. I play tennis, Jim plays golf. We don't play together. Not that we wouldn't want to, it's just that he has his own interests and I have my interests. And I didn't say, oh, you can't play golf on Sunday morning because that's a family time or something like that. I enjoyed the fact that he was able to do that with the golf club that he, people that he had up at Silver Lake. And I played tennis at night when the kids were little and I was working. He never said to me, oh, you can't do that because now the kids have to go to bed. And what am I going to do? We helped each other have our own little life. And when I was staying home, I joined a group we was called the Auxiliary to the Visiting Nurse Association. It was just a nice group of women who got together once a month for meetings in each other's houses, and we did charity work. And that was it got me out of the house with other people. So that was a social type of thing, and he supported that. So
he was supportive.
We're supportive of each other's interests.
Right.
So that's important.
That's
keep
huge.
Keep a little bit of your own identity,
Right. So you have the community part going, the relational part going. That's all creativity that I see there, because it's deliberate and intentional. You're financially, you were creative in the fact that you said we're going to stay with our boundaries, not go crazy. And you guys have a beautiful home down there. I mean, it's one of the best on the block.
Well,
so
I tell you,
did it right.
Jim did a lot of the work in this house. We didn't hire people.
Wow.
He put in new windows. The sunroom here, he built it. Now, he didn't do the framing. We had a person do the rough work, but he put in the window. He installed the window, and we did all the finishing parts. So these were things that he did to save us money. So I didn't have to go to work to do that. So these were things we worked very hard
all that
at.
creativity. He uses his hands. Don't you love a man that uses his hands? Oh, it's a beautiful thing.
And he still mows his own lawn.
And I still see him gardening. He's still using his hands, because I see him gardening as I'm passing by.
Right.
So you got the relational, the financial, the spiritual. You guys share a similar faith. You still go to church. You include God as your foundation, and you have your own identity. You just said you took care of yourself. So I think those four. I mean, there's more that can contribute to the success of a marriage, but I think, and of course, you don't call it dates, but you do the romantic thing. We were talking, and you said that you make sure you don't just throw the plate on the table. Make it elegant. Make your home elegant. I've been to her home. It's very elegant. So I see creativity littered all through my experience with you, as I learn about your marriage and just getting to know you. So I just want to say thank you for taking the time to share that with your life with us today. 56 years is definitely a remarkable achievement. And here's the thing about thinking when it comes to achievement. People who go to the top think differently than others. Nothing limits achievement like small thinking. Nothing expands possibilities like unleashed thinking. And I'm hoping that some of the tips that we got from you today, we can use them to unleash our thinking for our own relationships, whether it's marital or platonic or parental or relationships on your job, to unleash our thinking so that we can reap the rewards that comes from deliberately being creative in our thinking. Thank you so much. Unless if anybody has no further questions or comments, we can wrap it up right here. And Marybeth, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your life with us. We really
Well,
appreciate
it's been a pleasure knowing
Yes.
you and being involved with this. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you so much. For those of you who want to learn more about Eve Speaks, you may visit our website at evespeaks.com. You can schedule your consultation where we are trying to help people to know themselves so they can grow themselves, as we also are on that same journey to continue to grow, to become the next best version of ourselves. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, ladies. Good night.